You know, those legends that just sort of stick with you? Tales of guardians bound to forgotten places, spirits driven by some ancient injustice.
Those are the stories that really pull you in.
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep into the lore of a figure like that. Veilgore, the Dread Warden. We've got some really fascinating source material here that brings him, his past, his whole world, vividly to life.
They really do. Our sources paint Veilgore as this undying Wraith Knight, super imposing figure, the blackened armor, riding this nightmarish course through ruins.
Yeah.
And he's tied to the Black Order of Nixmore, which sounds pretty ominous itself. His titles alone tell a story, don't they? The Dread Warden, Herald of Silence, Keeper of the Forsaken Gates.
Wow. Yeah, that sets a mood immediately. Dark, compelling.
Definitely.
So our goal today, our mission, if you like, is to really get under the hood, understand Veilgore. Where did this terrifying figure come from? What actually drives him? And maybe, where's his story going?
Right, because the sources give us more than just a snapshot. They talk about his past life as Sir Vaelin Durith and hint at this ongoing role in a much bigger, pretty intricate world.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Veilgore wasn't always this spectral harbinger of dread, was he?
No, not at all. Before all this, he was Sir Vaelin Durith, commander of the Ivory Guard of Eldrath.
Eldrath. That was a kingdom known for justice, prosperity, right?
Exactly. So he wasn't just some grunt. He was high up, a position of real honor, real authority.
So what happened? What was the tipping point? How does a commander like that become the Dread Warden?
It all comes down to the Siege of Hollowcrest. Vaelin led the defense, made huge sacrifices. I mean, heavy losses for his own troops, but he saved the capital from being completely overdone.
He won then. But it sounds like there's a but.
A big but. It was a Pyrrhic victory, and instead of getting parades and medals for his loyalty, he got betrayal. A devastating betrayal.
Betrayal seems like a common thread in these kinds of stories. Who turned on him and why?
The sources point squarely at the nobles of Eldrath. It looks like his success, his power, the respect he commanded after the siege. It made them nervous, jealous, maybe.
Politics?
Pretty much. They cooked up false charges, called him a traitor, even though he just saved them all. A massive injustice, really, and that's what set the dark transformation in motion.
And his execution, the way it happened seems important too, doesn't it? It wasn't just, off with his head.
Exactly right. He was executed at the Pale Gate, described as the city's oldest fort, a place with history. Like ancient kings spilled blood there in old rituals.
Okay, symbolic.
Very. And crucially, it was there, when he died unjustly, that this ancient curse woke up. The Curse of the Forsworn.
The Curse of the Forsworn.
Yeah, and its wording is chillingly specific to his fate. Let the unjustly condemned rise as warden. Let oathbreakers know no rest. That's a pretty potent curse, wouldn't you agree?
Wow, yeah, dramatic, terrifying. So, okay, betrayal, curse. Veilgore emerges, but he's not just like a free spirit of vengeance. This Black Order of Nixmore gets involved.
Right. His spirit, now completely twisted by that injustice, gets bound to the ruins of Eldrath, which is now just this shadow-haunted, decaying place.
Yeah.
And that's when the Black Order of Nixmore steps in. They're described as, keepers of cursed souls and enforcers against broken oaths. A shadowy group we need to dig into more. They basically claimed him.
So his new job description is?
Hunting oathbreakers, guarding forbidden places. A dark mirror, really, of his old job protecting justice.
A complete inversion,
Yeah.
from hero knight to spectral punisher.
Yeah.
But the sources also mention something else, like a part of his old self is still in there, an internal conflict.
Yes, and that's what makes him really interesting, I think. Despite the scary appearance, the role in the Black Order, there's this fragment of Sir Vaelin, his former self, still inside. And this fragment is searching for something, maybe redemption, even though he was the one wronged. Or perhaps just straight up revenge against the ones who set him up.
That internal struggle.
It adds so much depth, right? Otherwise, he could just be a standard scary bad guy. What do you make of that duality?
Oh, it definitely makes it more compelling, yeah. A purely evil force is just less interesting than someone wrestling with their past, their identity. Okay, so Veilgore's transformation is tied up with Eldrath's fall. But the sources paint a bigger picture too. Nithra. What's the deal with this world?
Nithra is called the Realm of the Fractured Crown. It used to be unified, apparently, under something called the Covenant of Light. Peace kept by these elite warriors, the Flame Wardens. Sounds like it had a golden age.
But Fractured Crown tells you that didn't last. What broke it?
Exactly. The sources say peace has, withered. kingdoms fell, shadows are spreading everywhere. The ruins of Eldrath, where Vaelgor is bound, are just one example of this decay.
Right.
We also hear about the Black Order of Nyxmore working from under the Obsidian Labyrinth and this creepy resurgence of cursed knights. It suggests Vaelgor isn't unique. He's maybe a symptom of a bigger problem.
And what's the root cause identified for this? Fracture.
It points to the Covenant of Light breaking down, and these magical protections, called the wards, failing. That collapse brought about the current age, which has this really ominous name, the Shattered Vow.
The Shattered Vow.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like the very foundations, oaths, and agreements just crumbled.
Pretty much.
Which brings us back again to the Black Order of Nyxmore. They seem pretty central to this Shattered Vow era. What's their story, their purpose now?
Their origins are actually quite interesting. They started out as sacred oath keepers, like super devoted to upholding solemn promises.
Okay, guardians of trust.
Right. But over time, their purpose twisted. It became something darker, more sinister maybe. They evolved into jailers of souls and collectors of curses.
Whoa, quite the pivot. A real fall from grace then.
Yeah.
What's their philosophy now?
They seem to believe that broken promises literally break the world, that they cause reality itself to fracture and decay.
Okay.
So their goal now is to restore balance, but their methods involve fear, control, undeath. They see using these dark powers as the only way to stop everything falling apart completely.
And Vaelgor fits in how, given he was a victim of broken oaths himself?
Well, initially he was their captive, bound by the curse, then sort of co-opted by the Order. But his sheer power and his connection to their whole thing, the consequences of betrayal, it's raised his status.
So he's moved up the ladder.
Yeah, he's become their champion, a serious enforcer. But, like we said, there's still that part of him wanting freedom from their control, so his loyalty isn't necessarily, guaranteed forever. It's precarious.
This feels like it's building to something big. A confrontation, maybe.
Yeah.
And speaking of the future, the sources mention a prophecy, the prophecy of flame and shadow. Sounds important.
Oh, definitely. It's an ancient prophecy from the last dream scribe, apparently. It gives a glimpse of what might be coming. It goes, "The warden will walk, the bloodline shall rise, the flame shall face the dark. A vow broken shall be reforged or shattered forever." Pretty evocative, isn't it?
Yeah, very. The warden, okay, that's clearly Vaelgor. But the bloodline shall rise and the flame. What are your thoughts there?
The bloodline seems to point pretty strongly towards Alis. She's the last known descendant of Eldrath's royal line. The same line whose king okayed Valen's betrayal.
Ah, okay. And the flame.
Likely refers to some kind of divine fire magic tied to her royal lineage, suggests a power that could, create or destroy.
So Vaelgor and Alis, their fates are linked, and the prophecy hinges on this choice.
Right.
Fixing the past vow or just breaking everything for good. That sounds like the core conflict.
Exactly. How they interact, allies, enemies, something else it seems like that will shape Nithur's future. The prophecy suggests that old wound, the broken oath that made Vaelgor, has to be dealt with somehow.
And it's not just those two in this mess. The sources introduce other characters, allies, enemies. Let's talk about some key players. First, Arch Soulbinder Cara Delmar. That title alone, yikes.
Yeah, sounds bad, right? Cara Delmar is this powerful lich in the Black Order, super smart, super powerful mage, but also totally ruthless. His big goal, mastering death itself. Very, and he sees the Warden curse, the one on Vaelgor, as maybe the key to doing that. So Vaelgor is either a tool for him or an obstacle, nothing more.
And his connection to Vaelgor's past, was he involved in the betrayal?
The sources hint he played a subtle role, indirect, like he was whispering doubts, feeding paranoia among the nobles back in Eldrath, manipulating things behind the scenes that led to the false charges and Valen's execution.
There's a shadowy link there. Why do you think he worked indirectly like that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Maybe he just prefers manipulation, avoids direct risk. Classic schemer type, perhaps.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Lady Arinth Malvris. A vampiric revenant? She sounds like, well, a different kind of problem. Or maybe temptation.
Exactly that.
Yep.
Lady Aerith also suffered a big betrayal in her past, embraced undeath, got powerful. She sees Vaelgor as a kindred spirit, someone else scarred by injustice.
So she relates to him.
Right. And she offers him companionship, more power, basically tempting him down a darker path. Full-on revenge, forget redemption. She's like the seductive alternative.
Dangerous. And what about the Broken Choir? That sounds less like a person, more like a phenomenon.
Yeah, they're like these tormented spirits of other Oathbreakers, cursed to haunt sacred places across Nythera. Each one represents a different kind of betrayal, like a soldier who deserted, a cheating lover, a corrupt priest, even a treacherous king.
Wow.
So they aren't maybe a direct physical threat like Cara Delmore, but they force Veilgore to confront his own past betrayal and just the sheer weight of broken promises everywhere. Maybe they even know something about breaking his curse.
Okay, so those are some serious adversaries and temptations, but Velgor isn't completely isolated, is he? Potential companions are mentioned too. Let's start with Alira Thorne, the scholar. Seems an odd match for the Dread Warden.
Alira is driven by this deep interest in Eldreth's lost history. When she finds the legends of the Dread Warden, she's not scared, she's fascinated. Intellectually curious. She actually believes the curse-binding Veilgore can be understood, maybe even broken, so she seeks him out, not as a monster, but as like a puzzle to solve, maybe someone to save. Her optimism is a big contrast to Veilgore's whole vibe.
Then there's Dern Stonejaw Brackmole, dwarf warrior, blacksmith. He sounds more down to earth, maybe a bit cynical.
Dern definitely brings a pragmatic perspective. He's got his own baggage from the Cursed Lands, lost his brother to the shadows. He's practical, no nonsense, just wants to find a way to stop the undeath spreading.
So he joins Veilgore, but maybe reluctantly.
Yeah, with a healthy dose of skepticism, but also maybe looking for purpose, peace. The sources mention he's secretly terrified of ending up like his brother.
That's another layer. And finally, Alis of the Hollow Flame. We mentioned her prophecy connection, but tell us more about her role as a potential companion, her own issues.
Neelis carries this huge weight, you know? The legacy of Eldreth's fallen royalty. She was raised in secret, kept safe from the dangers of the Shattered Vow, but she knows who she is, knows she might have to rebuild her kingdom someday.
That's a lot for anyone.
Totally, and when she inevitably meets Veilgore, she's torn. Duty to her people versus knowing her ancestors basically created this monster. She really embodies that whole vengeance versus hope theme. Her choices are going to massively impact Veilgore, you'd think.
It paints such a vivid picture. This world on the edge, all these characters tangled up with Veilgore. Okay, let's circle back to the world itself, the Shattered Vow. What really defines this era? What's it like?
It's an age of increasing chaos. Arcane storms are getting worse, wrecking landscapes, messing with magic. Ghost wars just flare up in blighted areas, old conflicts still fighting.
Sounds unstable.
Deeply. And maybe the creepiest part is the line between reality and like spectral echoes of the past is blurring. It's a world fundamentally scarred by broken promises, haunted by consequences.
And in that chaos, those themes we keep hitting, redemption versus vengeance, legacy by blood or choice, the meaning of honor and oaths when everything's breaking, they really stand out, don't they?
Absolutely. They aren't just ideas, they're the forces driving these characters. Veilgore's journey, the choices he makes, they're going to be a powerful commentary on all that, playing out against this broken backdrop of Neathera.
Okay, so we have a solid grasp of Veilgore, his tragic start, the messed up world he's in. Let's get specific about his powers. What can he actually do as the Dread Warden? What's his gear like?
His abilities are all tied into his wraith-like state and the curse. He's got Shadowbind summons, shadow chains to trap enemies, drag them into darkness.
Nasty.
Then there's Warden's Judgment. His spectral sword hits with this sorrowful wrath. It can bypass normal magic defenses. He commands a spectral steed, which is terrifying. It can phase through walls, cross between the living and dead realms easily.
Handy for getting around.
Very. And just his presence gives off this aura of dread, makes weaker enemies just run away terrified. Even tougher ones feel this chilling time distortion, this creeping despair.
He sounds incredibly formidable, and his equipment boosts these abilities.
Yeah, for sure. His sword, the Wraithblade Nyxfang, is forged from something called sentient soul iron, tied to his wraith essence. He wears a tomb shroud cloak, makes him basically invisible in shadows or mist. Very fitting.
And the Cursed Seal. That sounded important.
Hugely important. The Cursed Seal of Nyxmore. It's a double-edged thing. Marks him as an eternal guardian for the Black Order and as their eternal prisoner. It's this constant, visible reminder that he's not free.
So it's more than just a symbol. It actively defines his situation.
Exactly. It's a powerful artifact reinforcing his link to the curse and the Order's control. Really highlights that core tension. He wants freedom, but he's bound by this eternal duty.
Okay, putting it all together. The sources lay out a potential quest arc, the Shattered Vow. Sounds like a possible path for his story. Can you give us the quick version of the 3 acts?
Sure. Act 1 is the Echo of Chains. Starts with this surge of dark magic from Eldrath's ruins. Attracts necromancers, others wanting to control or use Veilgore's curse.
Trouble comes knocking.
Right. And Veilgore, sensing this threat, leaves the ruins for the first time in ages. He needs to hunt these guys down, but also maybe find out more about the curse itself, its origins, its nature.
Okay, so Act I gets him moving, seeking answers. What about Act 2? Remnants of the Ivory Flame.
This is where his path crosses Aelis's. He finds out the Eldrath royal line still exists, and bam, major moral choice. Does he give in to vengeance, destroy this last bit of the kingdom that wronged him?
Whoa.
Or does he find some way to guide her, maybe try to break the cycle of hate? This act really pushes his internal conflict of prophecy right to the forefront.
Makes sense. And the finale, Act 3, the Heart of Nyxmore. Sounds like a showdown.
Definitely. To break free from the curse, or maybe gain control over it, Veilgore has to go into the Obsidian Labyrinth, the heart of the Black Order's power.
Deep into enemy territory.
Exactly. Inside, he faces illusions based on his worst memories, relives the betrayal, and ultimately, he has to choose his fate. Will it be vengeance, becoming this, god of dread? Will he find forgiveness, maybe peace? Or will he try to take over the Black Order itself, become a different kind of warden?
Wow. 3 very different endings, each one huge for him and for Nathra. Really shows the potential for his character arc.
It really does. He's not just static. The lore gives him real agency, the possibility of real change, driven by his past and everything happening now.
So we've really gone deep today into Veilgore, the Dread Warden. Charted that tragic path from noble knight to spectral enforcer, explored the fractured world of Nithera, looked at all the forces and people shaping his future.
Yeah, we've seen how one big betrayal can ripple outwards, affecting not just one person, but a whole world. Veilgore's story is this powerful look at transformation, the weight of the past, and what oaths and vows even mean when everything seems broken.
And as you think about Veilgore's dark, compelling story, maybe consider the weight of oaths in your own life, in the stories you love. What's the potential there for corruption and salvation when those bonds break? What does it really mean to be bound by a vow? And can that bond ever truly be shattered? Or maybe somehow free-forged